Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Marketing Podcast, your source for all things marketing. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at @AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Jeeyan Rostam-Abadi on the line, and he's former EVP of Marketing over at Hawke Media. Jeeyan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Adam. I'm a huge fan.
All right, G, so I'm excited to get into today's topic with you. So lead generation and customer acquisition in B2B. So I know that's one of your expertise. I mean, you've come at it from many different angles, from integrative marketing to content strategy to paid media. I mean, I know you can slice this one a bunch of different ways. Where do you want to start with this topic?
Yeah, I mean, let's just start from the top. I think when you're doing B2B marketing, it's a lot different than B2C marketing or direct response marketing. You have to work on both the marketing side and the sales side. So when it comes to generating leads, it's interesting. Our co-founder and COO at Hawke Media always said that when you're building your online infrastructure, you almost have this hierarchy of needs similar to Maslow. So at the base of that, you need to have a brand, a product or service, and a functioning website. After that, the base of the pyramid, the next step is to have really, really strong life cycle marketing. So making sure that you're using email marketing, drifts, nurtures, using dynamic content based on what people opt into, but also using things like chatbots, Messenger, and SMS, and really integrating your life cycle marketing. The third step to that is really your traffic acquisition. This is where you use things like paid media, where you use things like directory listing, agency partnerships to kind of just generate more traffic that'll convert into leads. And then finally, you have things like content marketing, really strong SEO, and then also just social proof, right? User-generated content, referrals, third-party validation. This can also include testimonials and reviews. So when it comes to generating leads, you kind of have to make sure that your infrastructure is set. A good example is that if you look at the base of the pyramid, if you don't have a mobile, responsive, fast, high-performing website, it doesn't really matter if you're running really, really great Facebook and Google campaigns to drive traffic to your site, because a lot of those users are just going to leave. It's almost like seeing an advertisement for a 5-star restaurant and then going to that restaurant and then you're waiting 30 minutes for the host to come and see you, right? So I would say when it comes to lead generation, there's several things that you have to do. Is just make sure that you kind of take a list and draw out that pyramid and kind of say, what are we doing right now? Like, do we have all of these boxes checked off for everything that we need to use? And then also, how do we integrate those things? A good example is that now if you invert that pyramid, right, you can run a Facebook or Google ad campaign to go to your site, but you still need to remarket them, and you still need to have really, really strong life cycle marketing systems and process, because a lot of times users will go to a site for the first time and they're not going to, request to speak to a representative or submit a form, right? They need a little bit more information. They want to do more research online. So then you get higher up into that pyramid, and then you get really good reviews on Google. You get really good reviews on UpCity, for example, which is an agency directory and listing. And then obviously you want to make sure that your email marketing is strong, so that if someone signs up for your newsletter, you can continue to nurture them and provide more information to eventually turn them and convince them to talk to a sales rep. So that's kind of the first part of that funnel. So when I look at lead generation for B2B, I almost take a split funnel approach. And what I say by that is that once you've generated the lead and once someone raises their hand and they say, hey, I'm interested in working with you guys, let me speak to a rep or let me talk to someone, now you've kind of moved them from that first funnel, which is pretty much that marketing funnel, into the top of your sales funnel. So now they're actually speaking to a live rep for the first time. And that's where marketing really, really is important, because it's a little bit more quantitative in a sense. Now you're not just doing things like running branded ads and campaigns. Now you need to actually have credibility and proof of concept. So a lot of the ways that you can really support the sales side of things and improve velocity and your client conversion rate is just making sure that your marketing team is supporting your sales team with white papers, case studies, guides, ebooks, testimonials, quantitative PR, and case studies. And so when I say quantitative PR, there's two different forms of PR. I have a column on Forbes, and there's generally two articles that I write. One is a little bit more for brand building, things that are a little bit timely, relevant, and seasonal. So maybe, ads advertising trends to expect during, the next Super Bowl, or, that's something that no one's going to look that up in 3 to 4 years. That's just something where you're going to get high keyword volume and growth for a short period of time. But then you have things that are a little bit more quantitative. And so when I say quantitative PR, that's usually PR that kind of addresses a specific problem or solution. So a lot of times what I do on the sort of strategic and tactical side of things is that, I kind of take typical client deferrals and why they don't want to work with us, do a bunch of keyword research and kind of see what they're searching for in a search engine, and then just write an article and give it to our sales team for follow-up. So a good example could be, let's say, for example, that at a given period of time, maybe a quarter or maybe even a year, and this is just an example because it's off the top of my head, we are not driving sales volume for content production, content strategy. Well, a good article to write, this is somewhat of a real case scenario, is writing the power of digital content marketing and really addressing all of the needs, concerns, and questions that people have and demonstrating that value. So a lot of people think about content as, we should just host a blog on our site. But content marketing can be everything from user-generated content and videos. It can be events and experiences. It can be ratings, reviews. It can be guides, ebooks, games, quizzes, lots of things, right? And so there's different stages of your funnel that you can use different content formats for that are very effective. So for example, if you want to use ratings or reviews, that's usually something that's a little bit lower down that customer journey than something like a quiz to test someone's knowledge and drive education and awareness into what they know and don't know and where holes in their marketing are, so that you kind of generate that lead and that engage their interest, and then continue to serve them different forms of content that just help nurture them down into your client conversion funnel. I think the key here when looking at both your marketing and sales funnel is to make sure that it's very, very integrative, right? The power of content is that you really need to ask yourself a few questions, like who is your audience? What does your audience want or need at a certain point in their customer journey? And then once you've determined those things, what's the best form of content to really satisfy that client and make sure that we're both getting desired outcome. They're getting the product, service, or information that they need, and that we're also generating the business. Also, you can leverage your content dynamically in emails. You can personalize it. You can make it contextual. You can leverage, let's say videos from an event or an experience or a content you ran, and you can use it in a paid media ad to generate, more ticket sales for the next year, or maybe do a sizzle reel or a recap of the last year. You can do simple things like how-to guides or explainer guides to really educate and inform. I mean, I think that's really the key when it comes to lead gen and client acquisition for B2B, is just making sure that everything's fully integrative, and that you kind of look back to that pyramid I discussed and just say, what are the key performance indicators and metrics that matter at each stage? And then what's the best channel that's going to get us the best results at the lowest cost?
Let's talk a little bit more about top of funnel, and thank you for that, by the way. So that was a lot of content. For people listening to this, you're probably going to want to listen to this a second time and rewind it and take notes this time, because G just basically went through the whole process of what it took in only a couple of minutes, so that was awesome. That being said, though, I want to focus a little bit on top of funnel. So there's, this is going to vary, obviously, to answer this question, and I don't want to oversimplify, and I know it'll change from client to client, company to company, their experience, their budget. A lot of these things will vary. But that being said, I know with working with as many clients as you have, that some of the same common themes and problems tend to arise. So that being said, what are some of those that really low-hanging fruit, let's just say top of funnel, that a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives, they just are oftentimes off the mark on, and you're like, if they would just tweak that, they'd probably have a little bit better result?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to generate top of funnel traffic. You can do a lot of qualitative PR. You can use influencers, whether it's B2C or B2B. You can use paid media channels like Google, Facebook, et cetera. But I think a lot of times, just pumping money into advertising can kind of a lazy way to do things. It's kind of the default, like let's just run a billboard or a TV ad. And a lot of times you're not really looking at the metrics that really matter. With Hawke Media, for example, it's a little bit different. The agency our DNA is in e-commerce and direct response marketing, which is performance driven. And a lot of times when you want to generate a lot of traffic, of course you use paid media, but then there's the branded side of things where you're really looking at different metrics. You're not necessarily trying to generate sales. You're just looking at video completions. You're looking at traffic to site. And then on the back end, is this engaged traffic, engaged users? So what I would actually do, and this is more of the long-term solution, is that I would really invest in content and SEO before anything. Really find both short-tailed and long-tailed keywords that have not as high of a difficulty in terms of ranking, that aren't very competitive, but that are growing in search volume. A good example is, our marketing team, we saw maybe like a year or two ago that CBD advertising and CBD marketing, very, very short-tailed keyword query, was growing, and it wasn't very competitive. And so we built out funnels, not just from paid media, but also organic media on our blog. We did a lot of video content, episodic content, where we'd host, let's say, podcasts and webinars with thought leaders in the cannabis and CBD space, because you can't actually advertise for that on Google and Facebook, right? Like, it's against their ad policies and guidelines. And so one of the things we saw is that as we're starting to produce this content, but also syndicate it through all the different channels that I talked about, right? Getting on third-party websites from our partners who focused on CBD lifestyle, by improving our linking strategy, by, continuing to develop funnels and doing something like, what is CBD advertising and marketing, to what are the best channels to use, and developing case studies. We really built out a really, really robust solution and a really robust campaign. And we ended up ranking number one on both of those terms. And then also the PR side of it. And so obviously when it comes to SEO and content, it's not necessarily something where you put $1 in, you get $1 out. It can be really expensive in a way to produce in the beginning, just because you have to use either freelancers, you have to have an in-house SEO and content expert or copywriter, and you have to do a lot of the keyword research at first, so that you're really strategic and tactical about it. And then also just looking at 3 to 6 month plans in terms of how to actually continue to push that content out, republish it, syndicate it across all channels, include it in email follow-ups, email newsletters. But one of the things you see is that because it's content, it's your owned or earned content, right? You republish it every once in a while, but it lives forever, right? And so the way that I look at that against paid media, which is actually where I got my start in this industry, is that when you use paid media, so paid advertising channels, you run that ad impression, you pay for that inventory, but if a user scrolls over it on their mobile feed, if they refresh the page, or if they leave the website, you paid for that ad inventory and it's gone, right? It's finite, whereas content lives forever. And so the way that I look at producing content versus buying ad inventory is that it's almost like buying a house versus renting or leasing a house. When you rent it, you're paying that money, but you don't own it. When you buy a house, it's yours, right? You can rent it out to other people. You can have contributors on your blog, contributors write and then syndicate that through email with a backlink. You can sell the house eventually. You can, but it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. So I would say that's, if you're looking for long-term sustainable growth, the first thing that I would do isn't necessarily just pump money into paid media, but really develop a really robust content strategy and an editorial calendar, and put together a plan and build out campaigns and funnels, just because in the long run, it's going to be much, much less expensive. And then you can leverage it so many different ways through so many different channels. And I think that's the real value that you get.
Man, I love it. And I mean, that's where we've kind of placed our chips at over here. And that was our thought process in the beginning, was get the content right, make sure you have the right quantity, make sure that you're going out there and getting it. But, and that's where we've experienced our growth. So I love that you brought that up, because I think the other route is, you use the word lazy. I don't know if I use that word. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But I will say that it's not quite as difficult as figuring out great content and how to, in that strategy. I would say you're 100% correct on that one.
Well, so I'll say this, Adam. It's lazy wasn't the right word, but the reason why I say maybe start with content is that, to give you a little bit of background on the Hawke Media, it's a month-to-month and a la carte business model, right? And so we work with everyone from early growth stage businesses in pre-launch who need a launch strategy, but also Fortune 500 companies. And so with that, because we do everything in-house. We don't outsource our own operation, because people would outsource to us. So it didn't quite make sense to just kick it off to someone else. But by offering services, Hawke provides services in marketing strategy, paid media, content marketing, lifecycle marketing, and then also web and creative. One of the things that you see when you have a client who has all of these integrated channels, or even when they don't, is that strategically you can you can place content in every single department that Hawke offers, right? So it's a very fluid and a very agile solution in that sense, because if you, for example, going back to your original point where it's like, how do you get top of funnel traffic? If you go to an agency or a consultant or a freelancer who only specializes in paid media, it's a bit of a myopic way to look at your marketing, because you're not really developing full funnel solutions in-house with a team that's going to take one piece of your marketing like content and make sure that it's spread out across all of your marketing efforts,
That's awesome. So, Jeeyan, that being said, if somebody's listening to this and they want to connect or learn more about your work, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I would say you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jeeyan Rostam-Abadi. I'd say the other thing is that if you want to email me directly, you can do it at jeeyan91@gmail.com, jeeyan91@gmail.com. Obviously, willing to connect, willing to do some high-level strategic consulting and help you out. But if you need more tactical help, like if you need someone running your paid media campaigns, auditing your email to make sure that you're getting good deliverability, good conversion rates, and that that you're leveraging content effectively and dynamically to get better sales, I would reach out to my former employer. I'd ask for Eric Huberman, and I would say, hey, I need help. Get your best people to dive in and tell me how I can grow my business. And they're more than willing to help. They work with businesses of all sizes, all revenue models, all industries, and so yeah, I think for more tactical stuff, if you're looking for immediate help, especially with what we're facing with COVID-19. I know, I've been watching some of the riots this week. I'm in downtown LA, so it got pretty ugly. I know a lot of retail locations who do e-commerce are suffering. I would highly recommend Hawke Media. If you need a turnkey solution, if you're a business owner who's affected by the pandemic, by the impending recession, anything that's happening, you need a turnkey solution. Worry about your business, worry about the operational stuff, but when it comes to your marketing, you'll sleep well at night with Hawke Media.
Fantastic. Well, Jeeyan, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background, all the great stuff you're doing. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Marketing, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave some comments in the video. I'd love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Jeeyan, thanks again for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Adam. I had a good time, and I'm looking forward to our next one.